Welcome to this video where we're going to talk about roadblock removal. This is an analogy that I really like. Some people in the industry, and I don't know that it's bad, but I don't agree with it entirely. Some people will call things that get in our way constraints. And if you've ever seen one of our tact videos, constraints to me are something that can't be moved. So like if you have a parade of trades, meaning like a rail line here where your train is heading in that direction and you need to get between mountains, like these mountains are constraints. They can't be moved. These are things like the project budget, an adjacent rail line to your project, the size of your project, where it is downtown, the authority having jurisdiction, local labor laws. These are things that you have to just weave around. A roadblock, if my train is coming down the pathway here, and maybe we can call it a rail block, but I call them roadblocks. If something's in the way, we need to get rid of that. That needs to be removed. It shouldn't be there. That's not something that's permanent or that we're constrained by, right? Constraints are either semi-permanent or they're permanent. Roadblocks should be temporary and we should be able to get them out of the way. You remember these old rail lines, they would have this cow catcher on the front. They weren't found to be very effective, so they stopped using them, but the idea was to clear anything to the left or to the right along the road. It's our job to make sure that we clear those. The bottom 25% of workers in construction on average will beat your bid units, meaning what you think they should hit from a productivity standpoint, they could actually hit. This is the mid 50% right here. The top 25% are 4 times more productive than the bottom 25%. Why do we not hit dates? Why do we not hit production? Well, it's not because the crews aren't productive, it's what's happening in between. Usually what will happen is a foreman will come out to a project site and they're like, okay, everything's ready. All right, I'm going to work with my crew. Oh, I hit a roadblock. We're out. We're going to go to another job. That's not exactly what we're supposed to be doing. If this is the work that we're supposed to be doing and foremen are focusing here, you could leave that crew alone and they'd make production. If they have the materials, the tools, the equipment, the information, the layout, the space, the expectations, you have all of these things here. You could leave your workers alone and they would hit production. We don't need the foreman to focus here in the work. We need the foreman to focus on the in-betweens, the roadblocks, what happens between tasks. The foreman should be focusing out ahead and the superintendents, hey, do I have all the permissions? Do I have the material? Do I have the information? Do I have any roadblocks, right? And that's where the foreman should start. So literally when the foreman's in the game on a construction project and they're like, okay, we have everything, my crew's working, they should like literally leave them working and then go out to the next area and be like, okay, do we have the layout? Do we have the information? Is that done? Is that? Do I have the materials? I'm going to stage the materials. Do I have any roadblocks? The foreman should be out ahead. And the problem is that foremen in our industry nowadays are playing the wrong game. Their company owners will tell them, hey, pull off the job if you don't have all the information. Pull off the job if anything holds you up. Just go to a different job. And that's not where we need foremen and superintendents. Your workers could be left alone to do their own production work. We need the foreman to be finding these roadblocks out ahead and removing them. So roadblock removal is absolutely key. How do you remove roadblocks? Well, we have to see them. There's a really neat quote that I like that says, you can't manage what you can't measure, but then I added on there, you can't measure what you can't see. So when you have a tact plan, and I'm talking on a norm level, so that means that you might have your activities, but everything on the top is a day-by-day format. You have a schedule now where you can see where you are, where you've been, where the end date is over here, how many buffers we have, but there's also something more important. You can see the next 12 weeks or 6 weeks, and you can see the next week. And so the key here is in our conversations to find out with the trade partners, hey, are these tasks ready? So when we start to look, and let's just say it's 6 weeks out, here's a new activity, new activity, new activity. The immediate question is, do I have all permissions? Do I have all materials? Is it on track? Do I have all the information? Do I have all RFIs back? Do I have the expectations? Have we outlined the quality expectations? Do we know how to do the layout? Will I have my shop drawings or my submittals back? You're asking all of these questions. And if any of these questions are a no, that is a potential roadblock. That is a red flag. So that's something that we need to work on to make ready so that when the train's going down the tracks, we don't get held up. Usually, here's what it looks like. If I'm like, hey, are you ready? Yeah, I'm ready. Okay, we're good. And then I move on to the next subject. No. That's not how we do it. If there's an important task, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Foreman, are we ready? Yeah, we're ready. Okay, well, let me ask you a question. Do you have all permission? Well, you are in charge of the job. You should know. Well, I'm just asking, like, are there any special requirements for this work? Anything that the inspector told you in the pre-construction meeting? And then hopefully they start to say, well, the inspector said if blah, and then you get into a deeper conversation. Instead of, hey, are you ready? Yeah, I'm ready. Then ask a question. Are all the materials on the way? Well, you'll have to talk to my shop. Well, okay, I'm wondering, would you be willing to give them a call? Have you gotten previous materials? Have you ever had a problem with this before? Well, no, I usually get my materials just on time. I saw them at the shop. I think we're going to be fine. I can go back and check next time I head to the shop. I'm heading there Thursday. I can count. Awesome. Would you please do that? So instead of these superficial, like, are you ready? Yes, I am. We can have deeper conversations where, are you ready? Yes, I am. Ask another question. Ask another question. Ask another question. Ask another question. And really get them to experience it, to think about the space, to imagine the space, to feel the space, to sense the space. Like, is it ready? Is there something in their way? Is there other work that needs to be complete? What kind of a situation will they have with their lift, with their crews? Get them to be thinking and actually be present in the moment when they're answering the questions. And if you have any of these questions that aren't answered properly and you see a potential roadblock that will hold you up, then that's where we identify those roadblocks. Oh, here's another principle before I leave this one. When you say, hey, this is our deadline, this is our milestone, or this is our milestone, usually when milestones are clearly communicated to trade partners, that's when they're going to start to harp on why it's not ready. For instance, if I said to a group of trades, does anybody have any roadblocks? You'll hear crickets. Like, there's nothing. Like, nobody's going to say anything. But if you say, hey, this group of people, these 3 or 4 trades have committed that in 2 weeks we're going to be done with such and such, then they're going to be like, oh, okay, well, hold on, I'm going to need blah blah blah, I'm going to need this, you don't have this ready. Immediately they're going to start to tell you why it's a problem. It's my funny analogy that I like to use is like, if you're dating someone, it's all fun and games, and then when you propose marriage, they're like, okay, hold on, let me think about this. But where would we live? Would I take your last name? Well, what would my parents think? Like, do I really get along with you? Do we need a couple more years, right? So as soon as you put a ring on the finger, that's when people are like, all right, let me think about this, right? So if you put a ring on the finger with the trades and they've committed to a milestone and we can constantly talk about that in our meetings, then you're going to get more roadblocks. So that's another way that you can actually mine and get roadblocks. Let me tell you about a third way, which I think is really kind of cool. In the weekly meeting calendar that we have talked about in previous meetings, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? I advocate having an afternoon foreman huddle and a morning worker huddle, right? You have your trade partner weekly tactical, which then allows you to host the foreman huddles. And then the foreman huddles, you then communicate with the workers. By the time you've had even a foreman huddle and you've talked to the workers and you've asked them, what's in your way? What's bothering you? What's wrong? What's giving you a hard time? You should then be able to have a visit with your project manager every day. It could be a text, it could be a meeting, it could be a phone call. But field superintendents should be able to check in every day. And then what they're doing is they're saying, well, these are the things that our trades are saying are holding us up. Let's as a team go work on that. Then you get to the next day, the foreman huddle, and then that comes over to the workers. You ask them what's bothering them. And then again, at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, I almost was tempted to do a PM joke, like at 9 when they were all not funny. Okay, anyway, at 9 o'clock, whenever everybody's there, then we're like, hey, here's our roadblocks. We need help. Going through the meetings of the foreman huddle and asking your workers in the worker huddle what's going on is a really good place to get more roadblocks. So a roadblock is anything that can hold you up. Now, I like this video. I like that I'm on a whiteboard here. So if this is the day when it would impact work, a lot of times we find out the day of, 2 days ahead of time, and you're heading towards a critical placement, right? Has anybody ever had this where you're headed towards a critical placement and you're like, hey, we're ready to go. And the foreman's like, well, we don't have these form savers. We needed form savers for these dells. You're telling me a day before? Like, what? Like finding out a day or 2 days ahead can really impact. That roadblock is likely to actually hold you up. We want to increase the time that we find them, because if we can find them earlier, we have more of a space here in the middle to do something about it. Actually, there's a way to track that. So if you find roadblocks, you can write down the days, the number of days until it will actually impact work. And if you track that average on a daily or weekly basis, that number should be getting bigger, meaning you should go for 1 or 2 to 5s or 6s to 3 weeks. Hopefully we're at least 3 or 6 weeks ahead finding roadblocks. And then if you track this number and you're like, okay, week 1 we were 2 days ahead on average, the roadblocks that we find, then we went to 6, then we went to 7, then we went back down to 6, then we went to 12, right? If you know that this number is tracking and getting better, meaning you're getting more days before a roadblock is going to affect you, that's pretty fantastic. And what that means is that your trades are also reading getting the drawings faster, looking at their submittals sooner, preparing sooner, making things ready sooner. And you're out here in the future. And here's the deal. Now you see that the foremen are no longer just day of. They've switched their focus to preparing out here in front. This number will indicate that. That's why I'm so excited about that number. The other thing is, what do we do with roadblocks once we find them? There's a couple of key parameters here. When we find roadblocks, you want to make them visual for the whole team. And so I'll say visual for the whole. The other thing you're going to want to do is have it in a common location. If you have roadblocks tracked in 4 or 5 different Excel sheets or something, that's not in our face enough, right? It needs to be a daily tool, whatever you use. And number 4, you need to be fanatical about it. How can we become fanatical about roadblock removal? It should be like an addiction. Like, okay, I've just got to get this into my veins right now. So these are the parameters. In the conference room, I like to have visual maps where as soon as a roadblock is identified, I go ahead and put it on there. And I put it on where it goes, and I have a little leader that goes over there. And as I see work coming through that map, I will be able to see, hey, when is that going to hold us up? And so every day in my stand-up trade partner meetings, or when I'm doing the trade partner weekly tacticals or the daily foreman huddles, I'll go over that map every day. And then it's visual. It's in a common location where every meeting I have, I can use that same board. I use it daily in my meetings, and I become fanatical about it, right? The foreman and the superintendents, we're not out there like bossing people around and pointing fingers all day or doing useless work or babysitting or running to Home Depot. We're working on these. Like, this is hard. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is why they pay us so much money. This is why supers and PMs are so valuable. It's the removal of roadblocks. There is no scheduling system on earth or in the universe or in the eternities that will work if we don't make roadblock removal an absolute priority. So this is a picture of the killer tact example that I really like. And this is an image of what a norm level schedule should look like, right? So on your schedule, like I said, you should have your flow, your buffers at the end, your end date. You should be able to manage this on a norm level. When you filter out your 4-week, 6-week, 3-week make ready look ahead, you can start planning for tasks right then and there. But when you find roadblocks, I really like to use a roadblock tracking map, and I'll show that to you right here. So this is what this looks like in general. This is like the basic form. But if you have a tack time where you have these different trades working and you have these zones which are outlined with these black outlines, these zones are the zones in which you want to complete certain types of work. As I'm going through the tack time, I'm seeing how far along they're going, and if I hit a roadblock, I put it down here. So this one right here, overhead plumbing issue, disconnected area, it's put on pause because of a design change, right? You can start to go ahead and write down, hey, here's this roadblock, here's this roadblock over here, here's this roadblock, and visually now you see where it is, how it's going to affect work, and what you need to do to overcome it. So for instance, like if I had a roadblock that needed to be solved immediately, this blue contractor has been working their way, and if I don't get it before they hit here, if I don't solve this roadblock, I'm going to be in trouble. Having these visual roadblock tracking maps is just absolutely fantastic, and if you ever need help with that, we can 100% do that and set these up for you in Bluebeam. So I hope this has been helpful. Roadblock removal is one of the single most important things that we'll ever do on our project sites. I hope you've enjoyed this. On we go.